Nick, thanks for making time to talk with me today and share more about your company. You have an Amazon agency, and I am in the agency business as well, fractional sales. You're doing something similar on the Amazon side. So clients of mine and others are potential clients of yours. Tell us a bit about what an Amazon agency does. And then right after that, let us know, when you were little, did you think about all those packages coming? You're like, I want to run an agency. Tell us a little bit about what an agency does. Then how did you get to this place of running your?
Yeah. So, I mean, Amazon agencies, think of any marketing agency. It's funny, I got a bunch of buddies of mine that are neighbors and friends, and they're always like, what do you do? And I always just try to, I'm fairly quiet about it. I'm like, I run a Amazon agency. And they're like, oh, so, and they have no idea. They're like, is this like, do you sell product? Do you whatever? So my
Right.
backstory before this was I had a CPG company, gummy vitamin company called Vita5. And we started direct to consumer all on Facebook, Google, on our Shopify website. And then we went Amazon and we scaled that pretty substantially and profitably, which was amazing. And then after that, we ended up going retail. We went 0 to 7,000 doors within about 2 years. It was 25,000 points of distribution.
It's amazing.
Long story short, my Amazon dropped 15% in the time that I went retail because I outsourced it to 7 different Amazon agencies. And so I just was like, maybe we just don't have the opportunity, whatever. So I took back in house and I scaled it 450% within 3 months. And so when you ask the question of like, what's an Amazon agency? Most people know agencies in general as not many people like them, which I'm with them. Uh, they're usually pretty watered down, or they're really good until they're not really good, and then they get really bad. I mean, I was talking to a guy who's an investor in some of the biggest agencies, and he was like, and they say it so appropriately, I'm not as well spoken as them, but they're like, once you hit a certain level, your service level drops. And I'm like, oh, so what you're saying is your results are going to drop once you hit a certain size and you don't care because you're making money. And I'm like, that's just wrong. And that's exactly what happened to us. So,
So you had, when you had Vita Five, and that's when we met a number of years ago at probably a distributor event or a retailer event. And so you had grown your business. As it was growing, you outsourced to an agency, and that agency's job was to be an expert at Amazon, right? That's what you ultimately you do now. You work with a variety of brands. You are in that day to day of Amazon. But at that time, those folks, you said 7 different agencies, and clearly you had maxed their capabilities and they were limited, and you brought it back in house.
yep.
You said scaled 450% very quickly. And now you take those learnings and share them with others. And that's why we connected, right? So you are adding a great deal of value on LinkedIn. So if someone sees this video that maybe they're not following you on LinkedIn, please follow Nick Hall and follow his company's page as well, because that is, I think, certainly it shows your abundance mentality, because you're out there, the last post I've shared that you had written, you were listing out things people needed to do. So if someone, maybe they're just getting started, and we'll talk about what an ideal client is, and they're just at the beginning where they can't afford to outsource anything,
Sure.
you're giving them value. So thank
Yeah.
you. That's great.
Of
That's why
course.
people should follow you. And then when someone hits that level to be a client, if someone wants to do it on their own, you're teaching them. So that's great. Other agencies should be following you. You're giving great advice. So you have a great abundance mentality. And for those brands that we will talk about this in a minute, where that ideal client comes in, so they know this is when I should reach out to Nick. But you're sharing a lot of value. What? Why did you start doing that? Because, and I ask that sincerely, because a lot of times people think I have the secret sauce,
Yeah.
and a lot of times it's execution. But you're sharing that. So why? Why are you
Yeah.
giving the secret sauce away?
Well, it's funny. One, I'm not a big fan of LinkedIn. I don't love the, my grandma died, dot, dot, dot. Not really, but it felt like it when I lost a sale. I'm like, there's so many obnoxious posts
Right.
out
That's
there.
not the same thing.
Yeah. And it's, so for the longest time, to this day, I still have a hard time posting on LinkedIn. But I made a commitment a number of, a couple months ago. And I was like, I'm going to post 3 to 5 times a week. And I'm just going to start sharing things. And I started sharing things where I would always leave out a certain something that they needed. And then I started getting to the point where I'm like, why don't I just share everything? Because the reality is there's so much to this. Like, I'll just explain it the way that I explain it to a lot of people. I was just trying to hire someone from a major Amazon agency. I talked to him and he said, I got started on Monday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we had training. By Friday, we immediately were on 5 brands. And I'm like, that's nonsense. I've got 10 years in this thing. And right now, my training, and unfortunately, fortunately to my team, it is 540 hours of training. This is not like light training. There is a lot of stuff to Amazon, but you've got to understand everything. This is not just like understanding where do you click buttons or whatever it may be. And so back to the point of this, I just decided, you know what? I'm just going to, if people ask questions, I'm just going to answer them. And I'm going to answer them as in depth as possible because the reality is like people need help. And does that mean that some people are going to go do it on their own and not use this? Yes, it does. And that's fine. I would rather that because one of the biggest things that I think is missing, and one, I still have to give you major thanks because you are literally the reason why we got into Target.
Wow. Well,
There was other retailers.
I wish I could take some credit for that, but hopefully it sounds like maybe some guidance I gave help. But that's good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was
Thank you.
amazing. I still remember us sitting in the booth next to you. We were chatting with you and you're like, oh yeah, I give the intro. This is exactly blah, 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 giving us the playbook. But you get it, right? Like in all these spaces, there's not just one thing. It's not like AI can just take over or whatever it may be. There's just so much more to all of this. And so to me, I'm now like, I had this realization a number of weeks ago where I was like, why don't I just share everything? I mean, the reality is, who's going through 540 hours of training? And it's not just 540 hours of training. It is like that training plus a lot of feedback along the way. And then once you go through that training, I'm not going to compare it to Navy SEAL boot camp or anything like that, but it's intense.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Sorry, I apologize for interrupting, but I
No,
think that makes sense. So, one, again, keep doing that because content is very valuable for any brand. Right? Best brands provide content. You're sharing things, and you mentioned Navy SEAL. And I don't think that's far off in all candor, in the sense of the training. A friend of mine trains jujitsu, and he was training me, and I was thinking about. I went to a class. They're like, "Oh, how many hours have you trained?" I started doing the math. I've trained like 20 or 30 hours, not very long, right? Super
yeah,
white belt,
yeah,
belt's not even dirty. I just know that it feels like I'm going to die every time. But I was thinking about my friend who's now earned his purple belt, and he was like, "Brian, if you go, you need to get a blue belt, which is the first belt for those who aren't familiar with jiu-jitsu or Brazilian jiu-jitsu. The first belt's a blue belt. That's about 3 years." He's like, "Brian, if you go 3 days a week for 3 years, you could potentially earn a blue belt." So again, that's 150. That's about 450 hours. Okay.
468 times.
Yeah, and so you're taking your team through, you said 540 hours, which means they're competent at the end of that. Because a blue belt, my Lionel would say, you're not a killer, but if someone attacks you,
You're
you'll
good
survive. You're going to survive,
for
right?
sure.
And you're saying, hey, you care about your team and your clients so much, you're going to give them these 500 plus hours of training so they're competent. Is that fair? That they might not be, clearly they don't have your 10 years of experience, but now you go like, hey, Joe or Susie on the team, they're competent because along the way, like SEALs training, you've struggled, like jujitsu, you're like, no, not here. That's really good. Keep doing that. You need to move here this way, right? This thing, you
Yep.
word it this way, or the picture's done this way. You're giving them that feedback along the way. So they're pretty competent. And yes, you're thinking, I went to hire someone from another agency. They had 32 hours of training, right? 32.
One
They got five
also too.
brands.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's funny you give that as an example. I've never thought about that. I did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 6 months, and I was pissed by the end of it because I would get my ass kicked every day. I
Oh,
wasn't able to
right.
stand up for nothing, and I'm like, "I've learned so much, I'm horrible still." Like, most people, it's like,
Yes.
if I go teach my kid how to throw a football, we'll figure it out within a couple hours,
Right.
It's not gonna take too long, but, like, literally, like, what you're talking about is, like, 468 hours, and you'll be good. Not great,
Yeah, those
not
first 6
amazing.
months, you're going like, hey, honey, I'm going to go, and some men are going to throw me around like a little rag doll. They're just going to throw me around, and it'll be someone half your size,
Yes,
or
that's
someone
exactly what I
like
was
an
gonna
old
say.
guy like me. There'll be some 55-year-old
Yep.
guy in there. I had a guy that was 68. I was like, my gosh, I got beat up by my grandpa. So yes, it is. Yeah,
It's
you
so
put a lot
true.
of hours in to go, I'm going to die.
It actually is a very good example for anyone that understands that world because it is. It's like, to be completely honest, after 6 months, I still wasn't dangerous to anyone. In fact, I was probably actually more dangerous because I had a little bit more confidence, but not much skill. And so that's what I think. And honestly, I think that's how a lot of Amazon agencies run. A lot of Amazon agencies sit out there and they're like, hey, let's give them enough that they're dangerous, but they're dangerous in talking, but not dangerous in their skill.
Right, right. Yeah, they know the words, but they can't. No, that's great. Well, so your own experience brought you this place, and you're putting a lot of effort into training people. And I think that's as people go to evaluate agencies, I think you just gave someone a great question to ask. I will use this myself. I think it's how many hours do your people train before you put them on a brand? Because you're
Right.
investing 500, you're investing a lot of hours into someone that costs. That's an investment into them, whether they stay
Right.
with you or not. Clearly, it's an investment for the future. But so, as brands listen to this, as anyone in our industry stumbles across this, think about asking a potential agency how many hours they train their people before they put them on a brand and how that maybe progresses along the way because that's you're putting a significant amount or someone's gone to college they think of a college class as 3 hours but it's longer than 3 hours but they're getting like a bachelor's degree in this from you. They're
Sure.
putting in numerous hours so they can think of whether their background might be sports or a martial art or if it's
Yeah.
college or music or something where someone has spent hours and hours over months, maybe years training, and you're pouring that into folks so that not only do they have the vocabulary to talk about Amazon,
Yeah.
they've really done it. And I love that you said that there was feedback to them along the way. So, and for your agency, are there categories that you focus on? Right? Do you say, well, we focus on supplements because your background, or you like, no, we can do lawn and gardening all the way to
Yeah.
clothing, or is there a specific focus that you prefer to work in?
Could we do anything yet? Where we really like to put our focus in is your healthy, better for you CPG companies, supplements, those. We've done things in beauty. We've done drones. We've done,
Cool.
treadmills. We've done all those things. I really like the healthy, better for you CPG world. It's just a really, really cool space. There's so much opportunity within it. And I like just being, I'm the guy for that, right? Like there are tons of Amazon agencies out there that do your lawn and garden and all these other things. And can I help guide you on those? Absolutely. But
Well, and
my specific is that.
that's great. So better for you, CPG and health and beauty, and that's fantastic, right? Because something that you're passionate about, there will still be within your training, there'll be those nuances that certain things apply across the board, like you said. Drones would be pretty interesting. But
Yep.
if they play in your space where you're very passionate about as well, you're going to have those nuanced knowledge that will help make a big difference. You know, something else we talked about a little is, for whether it's an agency like mine where I do fractional sales management, or if someone was outsourcing their meta ads, there probably is an ideal client for you, a brand that's at X dollars, either as a brand as a whole, so they have the revenue, or X dollars online. What is sort of that? We'll call it the floor where they realistically they can probably afford what you're doing, not only
Sure.
whatever fee you charge, but also the investment, right? Because you, I'm sure you charge a fee that's just not for free, and they need to invest in advertising and what related support goes to that. So, where's a brand sort of sweet spot? Say, hey, this is a great time to reach out to Nick, or maybe a little before, but what's that number look like?
Well, it's funny. So I actually look at it a little bit different than a lot of people do. So numbers, important kind of. Obviously, what I don't like doing is I want to understand your financial background just to understand like, are you
That's good.
spending your last $1,000 on this? Do you have $10 million in funding? There's different strategies for each way.
Right.
But what I would say with it is, yeah, there's some numbers that I like to have, right? Just because like, and a lot of agencies say this, if you're doing $1 million a year or more, you probably have the money to spend on us, right? If you're doing 20 to 50,000 minimum on Amazon, you can. I've taken so many brands from $10,000 a month to hundreds of thousands a month. Okay. And would that technically be in my target market? No. Things that I actually like, if I could put it in my ICP or whatever people are saying nowadays for their target market, I love it when someone's been on Amazon and they've worked with an agency before. Because when you've been on Amazon, you know how much of a pain in the butt Amazon is. When you've worked with an agency before, you know how bad agencies are.
That's
And
good.
so,
I
I
like
joke
that.
with some people about that because I'm like, I went through 7 of them. I got a guy and he was like, I wasn't even trying to close him as a deal. I was like, I'll work with you. It's gonna be a challenge for me. This guy trusted nobody. He had gone through 5 agencies and he's like, why would I trust you? Why would I trust you? The whole time. And I'm like, don't trust me. Don't trust me. This is what we'll do. Tell me a metric that you want to hit. Within 30 to 60 days, I'll hit it. Be reasonable. Don't be obnoxious.
Right.
And we'll see what we can do. 2 weeks in, we hit the metric.
Amazing.
And he's like, "Okay, well, now this." And I said, "No, no, no. I have to fully gain your trust, and then I'll go." But I'm like, most agencies, they don't know how to control the knobs. They say they can, but they can't.
That's cool. Well, I like that's a great filter because right they've been on Amazon and they've sold on Amazon and they've used an agency to help them. That does qualify because they have some revenue, they have the resources, and as you to underscore what you said, they've experienced those challenges, right? Where they will benefit from your many years of experience. And if one of your team is handling, you have a qualified team member. And that's, one of the things I think a competent agency provides for a brand is you're working with a number of brands at once. And Amazon seems to change. I'm clearly not an expert at it. When I was with Ultima Replenisher, I managed our Amazon business for a very short time and then handed that off. But in the short time I was responsible for it, things change all the time. And that's probably the consistent thing with Amazon. You get the algorithm down, and 3 months later, it's changed. Like they're very consistently making changes. So when you work with a variety of brands, I think if I had Brian's widget company day, I would look to work with a Nicole as soon as I had the resources to do it. Or I'd be following you on LinkedIn so I could build it until I can afford Nick and his team because you get that experience. You're constantly thinking, oh, it's changing, and it's not just changing on the gummy side. I got a protein powder, it's changing, or you're working with a skincare, and you're thinking, oh, it's changing all these different ways. So you have that consistent feedback from Amazon and working with a variety of folks. And probably at some point too, correct me if I'm off on this, with agencies as your, I don't know if competency is the right word, competency, and as you manage more dollars with Amazon, your access to Amazon tools or people changes. Is that accurate? Like, not only do you understand things better, but you know how, if there's a problem, how to fix it. Is that
For
fair
sure.
and accurate?
Yeah, and when we started, we did my favorite thing early days was, like, doing advertising, full on PPC, all that. But what I found throughout was doing PPC just isn't enough, right? Like, image optimization is so important,
And
and
PPC for those folks, that's pay per click, right? That's
pay per
just
click, yeah,
maximizing
all your
the ad spend.
advertising. That's right, and then I started finding I'm like, "Well, it's really hard to win on this if you aren't doing this, this, this." And then the other thing that no one likes doing, including myself, we do it, but I don't like doing it, is case management, and that is a pain in the ass. When you
And
go on your
case
Shopify.
management, meaning how many units you're having on hand or the size
No,
of the
like,
cases, like there's a problem.
problem.
Okay.
And this is classic Amazon over the last 2 years. You upload a new picture, nope, changes all of your pictures to something different.
Wow.
Old pictures that you had in there, one picture doesn't go in, it suppresses your listing. Well, now you're losing thousands of dollars an hour. Can't do that. So we're like, boom, we got to get on it and we got to figure it out. We weren't doing that originally. Now we do because it's so, so, so important. And I'm like, putting it all together is really what makes a big business, right? Like, I mean, that's like doing Facebook ads without any kind of conversion rate optimization. Like, I've got a buddy of mine and he's the only guy I'll refer on the Facebook ad side because he actually understands full funnel marketing. And this isn't just like some 2015 hack. This is, like, one, you got to have a good product. And I think the one thing that I will say that I do, and I promise I do better than every other agency. There are some things maybe someone can beat me on PPC, maybe someone can beat me on some areas. I will almost guarantee you where I'll beat everyone else is on product choice. If you're good at picking products for Amazon, you may have a 60% success rate. At this point right now, I'm probably north of 85%.
And so when you say choosing products, meaning you're choosing how the clients you work with and the products you work with, or you're helping them choose, what does that mean
I can
exactly?
pretty much tell you if you come to me with an idea, I'll tell you if it'll be successful or not.
Okay, gotcha. So your experience allows you as a client, a potential client comes to you and say, Nick, here's our widget. And you're like, yep, I think that'll work. And here's why. Or you tell them like, no, Joe, I don't, because of X, Y, or Z.
Yeah, and we've got a saying internally where we're direct and kind. Okay, like some
Nice.
people are direct and they're jerks.
Right. Yeah. Direct
We
and kind is good.
Yeah, and so I just say it straight, and I always just tell people I'm like, hey, I'm fully transparent with this, and there's nothing. I'm not trying to be offensive or anything like that. This is just the reality of the market. So I've got a guy. We built the second creatine gummy on Amazon. We built it to the number one selling within days.
Whoa.
We built it and it was doing massive volumes. The guy's supply chain completely blew up. Fortunately, he was doing tens of thousands a month, just doing crazy volumes and stuff. He's out of stock for 6 months,
Whoa.
and he comes back. He's got now probably 300-400 competitors. He's got cost per clicks going from $1 to $6 a click,
Whoa.
and it just doesn't make sense. He comes back to me and he's like, "Hey, let's relaunch this, whatever," and I'm like, "There's no point." I mean, like literally, the math does not work. This is a bootstrapped guy too.
Right.
I
Because
wouldn't
it
even
would
try to
cost a
compete.
lot of money if he was funded. You're saying if you had a bank account with
Sure.
number of zeros, you're still going to spend a great deal of money.
For sure. Like it's gonna cost some money. Whereas in the early days, we did it so profitably that we were just cruising. I've had this happen multiple times though. And so people obsess over these little minute details and get the details right for sure. But I said there was some of it and I'm like, dude, just do this the right way and you're in such a good spot. So anyways,
Supply chain's a big deal, clearly, right?
100%.
And one of the things I appreciate that you said is right away if something's going to win or not, and you're direct and kind. And this is my takeaway from what you just said. If you tell me that Brian's widget isn't a fit, you're saying, Brian, even if you could afford my fees and you can afford the ads I'm going to tell you need, I know your product's not going to succeed and I'm not going to take your money, even if you're willing to give it because you have some integrity and you'd rather turn down the business because you would not be ultimately serving me well. And
Yeah,
I
100%.
appreciate that because it is very easy for an agency, any business to say, look, I don't think it's going to work well. And the person just says, no, Nick, really? And you're like, okay, I'll take your
Yeah, for sure.
instead of like, no, 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 we can't because right here's the reasons. Like we can't relaunch your thing because you're going to be spending instead of 5,000 a month on ads, you need to spend 50,000 a month on ads, and you're going to spend 50,000 a month. You know, whatever. I'm making this up, right? For 6 months, and you might not ever catch up. So let's not take your money. You know, we can find another way for us to earn fees. You need to pick a new product, or you need to go direct to consumer, but not on Amazon, whatever that
Yeah.
is. You kindly turn them away so as to not take advantage of that. I appreciate that. And that's for people who come across this. I think that's important in a partner as well, because that builds trust. Because if like you were
Yeah.
talking about the one client who you wanted to build trust because they didn't want to trust anyone, that that lets me know that if we're working together and things uh, don't work, you're going to share that with me. You're not going to take advantage of someone because the creatine gummy guy, maybe he creates a new something else, right? And comes back and says, well, Nick, I figured out supply chain. Let's go because I have this other thing. And you're like, now that will work. And you got the supply chain in order. So let's go. So that's great. That's having that kind of integrity, I think is super important. I'm sure, like you were saying, I think maybe before we started recording, it's good to reiterate, even if it was, that you have a wait list. You're doing well enough for your customers that through either referrals or your LinkedIn, you have folks coming to you that you're putting on to maybe September, October, but there's a wait list. And that's again, as someone comes across this, that's a great indicator that this is just mine. You tell me if I'm off track. To me, it's a great indicator that Nick and his team are doing a good job. You already mentioned you spend a lot of hours, over 500 hours, training your team. You're not rushing to either add clients or add team members until it makes sense. And that, for a brand that's CPG in the health and beauty space, where you're a fit for Nick, that makes me want to wait. Because if I anticipate my brand, if he looks at it and says, Brian, this is pretty good, but we can't onboard you until October, if you've already done that initial discussion and can filter and through, yeah, I think your brand's a fit, based on looking at it, what we've talked about, I'll wait. I would
For
rather
sure.
wait, and I'll follow you on LinkedIn. I'll apply what you're giving away for free because I know, one, you're putting a lot into your team. You're not just onboarding people so quick just to, add up your fee structure, your fee based revenue. So that's a lot of an endorsement just from your customers of that wait list. So
I appreciate it. Well,
congrats on doing those things.
this is my take. It's relationships over transactions. I've got people that I've talked with for years, years. No intentions on closing. I'm sure if it's a good fit, then it's a good fit. But and they come to me now 3 years later. I had a call with someone this morning. And he's like, "Dude, sorry. I mean, we've been talking for." And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not here for a transaction. I'm here for a relationship, and I'd rather a genuine, just good relationship with no money behind it than a transaction and no relationship." And
Yeah,
I'll,
well,
I'll tell you,
that's yeah.
there's been times where I wanted a transaction over a relationship, and they're not good.
Well, yeah, and you had mentioned, and I forgot about the target thing. I'm glad you remember. For me, in that similar way, like, hey, if I can, and I love again, you have an abundance mentality. If I can help someone, if I can make a referral, I'm happy. You're like, like, hey, you're chatting with someone that might become a client. You're like, hey, you've talked to them, maybe you've given them a little advice, and it's not quite yet ready or the right time, or you're helping them, and I think that's one of the reasons I'm certain that you're thriving is because of that mentality. What else should someone think about? Like I said, you mentioned the amount of hours you train. I think anyone who watches this again, ask your potential agency partner how many hours their folks go through training. Is there another question or two? I know there's probably many, but are there other questions that if someone's interviewing an agency that if they ask, it's a good indicator, kind of like the training thing? Because if someone says, hey, we train them for 4 or 5 days, well, 40 hours, I know I can tell the difference between 500 plus hours and 40 or 50 hours and 500. That's 10 times the
Yeah,
amount of
yeah.
training. Is there another question or two? You say, Brian, if people ask this, it's a good filter to see if the agency is competent.
There's twofold in this one. One is going to be, who are you going to be working with? So that's always a good one, because does this person have experience in this? Why is this person good? Whatever it may be. And the second thing is, like, what's the background on this person? Was this person a guy that changed tires at Discount Tire that was just looking for a better paying job and he could work in air conditioning at home?
Mm-hmm.
Or was this someone that has 5 years experience? They have CPG experience. They have Amazon experience. How long have they been doing it? And so I think those are some super, super important questions that people don't ask. The other thing that I would say with it is, okay, yes, I'm working with this person, but are they doing it? Because to be completely honest, most are working with an account manager.
Okay.
Really, you could call that a salesperson. That's
Right.
another account manager,
Right.
and they don't touch it. And I'm just saying, for any of the brands that I don't have an eye on, or I mean, I'm fairly involved in most at this point still, and I really like it, and that's why we have good quality. There's a couple of them that I'm way less involved in, and I remember having the account manager tell me like, "Hey, can you hop on this call with them?" And I'm like, "I don't know enough." Well, this is what happens with a lot of account managers. They don't know enough. They're not in the PPC. Like, getting a quick couple-minute video, 30-minute video, I don't really care how long the video is, from your team saying, "There it is," I think it's the biggest miss. And what they do is they train on how do you sell them more. And I've done some white labeling for people, and it's kind of silly because they're like, "Oh, let's upsell them something else." And I'm like, upsell them something that they don't need? I'm not doing that.
Right. So when with your team, so if I had Brian's widget, I keep talking about that doesn't exist yet,
Yeah.
and you, the person I talk to on the team is by and large going to be the person. They're not just an account manager. They're going to be the person really working through my account.
Yeah, I hope so. With
Yeah.
others,
With I mean with
with
your
me,
team.
yeah, they
Yeah.
definitely are.
Okay.
With
So
others, I would definitely make sure that they are.
and I do have some experience with a couple large agent, or at least one very large agency, and I do believe that was the way they handle, right? They might have an account manager who is that point person, and then there'd be a team kind of behind the scenes, and
Yeah.
I like that. So it means you're looking for folks. So questions to ask are who's going to be, in essence, my account manager, and what's their background, and is it just an account manager, or are they really actually managing my account in the sense they're doing the work on my
Oh, for sure.
right to understand that? That's really good.
I used to get in, like, almost fights with some of these account managers that had no clue into the background. I'm like, I know enough about this stuff that I can dig in. This isn't like recently, this is previous times, whether it was a Facebook agency or Amazon or whatever it may be. And they'd be like, "Oh, yeah, well, I'll just double check with the PPC manager." And I'm sitting there and I'm like, "So what's your point? You're just here to be a pretty face and BS me?" And that,
Right.
honestly, that is super common. And I understand this. Other agency owners that are much bigger than me go, "Well, you don't understand. You're not the size that we are," or whatever. And I'm like, one thing I understand is results. And they may understand the business model better, but to me, I sit here and it's so funny to me because this business is not as scalable as CPG. Okay. That is the bad thing with this business. The more that you scale, the more issues that come up, the more that you're dealing with HR, the more that you're dealing with like worse results, less service level. Literally, that's what people tell you. When you grow to a certain level, your service level drops, which we know what that means. Your results are off.
Right.
And I'm like, that's like me telling you with Brian's widget, you have a really good product. You've done really well in the early days. Now that you've scaled, let's just cut all of the quality out of it. And let's just give customers a really bad product now.
You're
And
right.
no
They
one
could
would
wait.
say that, but that's what that is.
Yeah. No, that's great. So it sounds like too, because you're giving your team this in-depth training. Tell me if I'm off, because what I will assume is maybe the person you hired who was, they were excellent at, say, the pay-per-click part. You've trained them all this way. Maybe their temperament is a little more introverted, but because they're so well trained, they're able to have a discussion with the client through everything because they're well trained. They understand it. No matter what their temperament or personality is, they don't have to be behind an account manager who is the face. They're able to communicate directly with the client.
That's right. Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Well, and that also, it expedites things anyways. One, you don't have the extra layer. And two, it sounds like too, somewhere through your own process, you're filtering out someone who at some point couldn't face the client anyway. If they were
Exactly.
right. So they're both capable of client communication and doing the work. So you're removing layers.
It's hard to find people like this, truthfully. I mean, I'm doing it a harder way. I get why people do it the other way. It makes a lot of sense the way that they do it. I know enough people in this space that have had nothing but issues with it. And I'm like, gosh, I mean, I remember this one time we had an account manager. This is for a design thing. And they were like, hey, we keep all communication with the designer. I get it. Designer's busy. He's like busy working on all of his different projects, all this stuff. And we're like, you're not getting the message through to the designer. Can we just talk to the designer? And she's like, no, you are not allowed to talk to the designer. You have to talk to me first. And I'm like, this is total nonsense. Like, you're not communicating it. We're not communicating it. You're not, someone's not communicating it. And it's like,
That's
you're not going to
yeah.
let us, like, we're paying that much money. And, but that's just
So
classic.
is it safe to say you'd shared it's harder to find people this way? You probably have, but you also need fewer team members because you don't have as many layers. So without getting too into the details and things that are private, my guess is it's safe to say though you're also able probably to pay better because you have, if I'm one of your team, I am this well trained, I'm like the MBA of Amazon folks versus the associate's degree or no degree self-taught, in that you're putting a lot into them. You have a more of a boutique firm, a smaller
Yeah.
group, but it's all like blue belts, or they're advanced. They're all very competent. You don't have these layers. Oh, here's Brian, an account manager. He's good at facing the client, but he doesn't know how to do anything. And we have 5 people supporting him, kind of
This
thing.
is, people can come in and I've had some very, very smart people look at my business and they're like, you should do this, this, this. And some of the things that they've talked about are straight up screwing some of my team members. And I'm super loyal to my team. One of the things I love more than anything, there's actually a company that we work with. It's called True Labs, and their values are dead on. They are like, they're just these amazing Christian, good, just people you want to be around, people you want your kids to be friends with, everything about them, right? And their team is so tight knit that like you could tell me that they're all cousins, family somewhere, and they're not, but they seem
Oh
like
wow.
their values are all so aligned though. And I've told them since day one, I'll say it publicly to a lot of other people, like that kind of culture starts with the values. And I'm unapologetic about the values. And I don't really care if I'm sure you could come into my business and tell me how I could optimize my business to make more profit. It's probably going to screw a team over. To me, pay substantially better than the market of where this is. But to
Awesome.
me, I don't have to babysit.
No,
I
that's
don't
that's
have to worry
better.
about.
Well,
And so to
yeah, that's great. Sorry,
it's
keep
just a
going.
different model. I mean, I know there's ways that I can make more. This is my whole take in this model. And again, will this shift over time? Maybe. I don't know. But point today is I want to go out just like in a consumer good world. I'm not going to charge double what the competitors are pricing. I'd actually prefer to be an affordable, super high quality option. Now, my margins may not be as high as they could be, but to me, I sit there and I'm like, when you give really, really good value, like one thing that I've started releasing to, and I only do this to brands that I work with, I charge $50 an image. And you're like, I can't get a designer for that cheap. And I'm like, I know you can't. You definitely cannot go get a company to do this for you for that affordable. And our designer is amazing. And I pay her super well. And it's all this stuff. I do not make good money on that. It is actually not like it's, I don't even care to see it on my P&L
You're
because
right.
it's just,
It's not a profit center for you.
it's definitely not. But it helps the whole business.
Right.
And so to me, I'm like, it's so worth it. Where everyone else would tell me, well, if I was in your shoes, Nick, I would do it and I could charge 3 times the amount. And I'm like, my designer is fully loaded with stuff nonstop for the rest of time. And we're in a good spot. Anyway, so It's fun though. And I just think that's just a good way of doing it. And when I've got demand pouring in, I'm on this wait list till right now I'm saying September, but honestly, I've probably got to push this back further. I got 32 meetings Monday and Tuesday. That's how
Wow.
busy I am. I
That,
got
that's
like
that's man.
18 this week that have been asking to work with me, and I'm like, well, I can't even take a portion of you right now. So
Well, that's great. No, I love your approach. Again, I want to underscore that because if again someone's you're coming across this, and I love those values because it is again the thing that stood out is you're paying people well, which means you're hiring good talent. You're investing well over 500. You said 540 hours in training.
yep.
When you hand them off to a client, they're fully capable of managing a client. You're paying them well, and you said, "I don't have to worry about things, Brian." And so, yeah, Nick, that's very valuable because that means it's better to pay those folks well because that's a mutual win. They love like, hey, I love coming and working with Nick and the team
Yeah.
because I'm valued, and you're hiring people who are empowered. It sounds like, and they're working with the client, and you don't have to deal with the headaches of going, yeah, but if I paid someone 50% less, I make more. But then you're dealing with someone who's not as trained as well or not as competent, and peace of mind is especially valuable. And my guess would be my I think it's a pretty good one would be that over time you'll still do well financially. What little you might make less than someone who's squeezing every nickel and dime out, you make up when you're back with your wife and kids with peace of mind like, hey, I'm on vacation this week, the family is the family time. If there's a problem, the team will solve it. And you're like, or you go to bed at night, you're like, you come home, you're done for the day, you walk out of your office, the home office, and with your wife and the kids, and you're not still with your mind back at work because, oh no, I have two clients that are unhappy because there's a bozo on their account and you've got to fix it. You're like, no, no, they'll solve the problem. They'll fix it. It'll be just
Yeah.
fine. That that's why you're an entrepreneur, isn't it? Like if you want headaches, you can work for someone else.
For
So
sure.
no, way to go. Those are I think those are things too that as someone is sorting through the agency that they're considering, Nick and his team, you're dealing with competent people. They're well trained, that are well cared for. You're not going to worry about, hey, I know I'm paying Nick well. Is he caring for his team? He is. And that's fantastic. And I think that's the beauty of, growing smartly, and that means as more clients can come on, you add that next person, whenever that may be, they're going to be well trained. They're going to be able to handle clients. So that's fantastic. So Nick, thank you. We could
Yeah.
go on and on, but I think we covered the important things. So, for those that are thinking about it, when you're looking at an agency, you're looking for someone to outsource this work to. You want someone who's an expert. Nick's team spends over 500 hours before he lets them loose on a brand. He's taking good care of them, which means they're happy to work there. And, happy team members make for happy people serving the clients. So, Nick, thank you.
Right.
And again, I
Thank
appreciate
you, Brian.
that you put so much value out there on LinkedIn. I know it can be tedious to do it, so keep that up. And I look forward to next time we can say hello in person, my friend.
Let's do it. Good chatting,
Awesome.
Brian. Appreciate you.
Thank you.